What's up, guys? Bear Game here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we're going to be specifically talking about Mystic Fairy Freya and potentially taking her into Destiny Transition because, well, one thing I've noticed on my account specifically, just testing things out, going through all of our different heroes, there seems to be one kind of position that is a flex position, especially since now that Therapist of Blood Betty has become a much better damage dealer overall, and having her paired with the Lord of Fear Aspen for all single target bosses, it does seem like having another damage dealer like a Doom Terminator Vulcan seems a little redundant, and or potentially Doppelganger Natalia being a not as required support hero. Now I'll say one thing: Natalia is one hero that's really hard to quantify in a battle. She's really strong, but I feel like we're moving too far towards a 3 damage dealer setup, and I've recently been seeing people using Mystic Fairy Freya as another Destiny Transition hero. And it's really good because, as you guys know, most people build Mystic Fairy Freya just to maximize her final sublimation Pistol of Stars. Why is that? Well, at 3 layers of evolutionary factor, at the end of each round increases the damage dealt by self to poison targets by 10%, meanwhile also giving self attack and speed. So that's really good. However, the very last node in the tree grants 33% of this effect to all allies. So essentially 3.3% poison damage at the end of each round to all your allies. That's pretty significant when you're going 15 rounds. That is a huge damage bonus to Lord of Fear Aspen when we're talking about Star Expedition, and just in a lot of different game modes if your team can survive. That doesn't even count if you're also getting, damage reduction, control immunity, increases allies attack, and all this other stuff. Now the damage she presents isn't that big of a deal, but there are some pretty cool things as well, because even when an ally releases a base attack or active skills, increases their all damage reduction, which is just a very nice passive amount that you get. And of course, she can provide some shielding. Now, shielding something we don't really have much of a use for anymore with having Hyperspace Hunter Ilamok almost on every single team, but there's still some other things that are very interesting with this hero, like Mirage Pollen. Basic attacks or active skills released by heroes with Mirage Pollen, which is that little pink flower under their feet, have a 35% chance to be dodged, ineffective against bosses. It also poisons all enemies, so that's kind of cool too. And it can take 4 times of an attack. So it's really interesting that this hero already has a cool kit. But one thing we haven't talked about much is her Destiny transition, and it's actually really interesting. If we jump in here and just take a look at the basic transition skill, it's an okay support type skill. After releasing a basic attack, you consume 3 layers of transition power to deal 600% attack damage to 2 enemies. Don't really care about that, but you're also reducing their damage reduction by 10%. So game modes that you're not able to use Drake or something like that, that is a nice added bonus to get around their defenses. Now, the one downside of this is after releasing a basic attack. So essentially, you're going to want to use the Phantom Dawn here with only the 3 layers on basic attack. The downside here is that a lot of game modes recently, you're almost getting an active every single round. That punishes this skill tremendously, because if you're only getting active skills off, this is never going to happen. However, in a lot of game modes like Void Campaign and other things like that, you are going to get basics off because you're not running Demon Bell energy feed setups. So this will take place, and it will reduce the enemy's damage reduction, which is pretty cool. Now, one thing is, she has a lot of cool support nodes in her Destiny transition tree. She does have a lot of damage nodes, which kind of weird, but I mean, it is what it is. She has chances to twine the enemies, which is a regular green twine that we've seen recently in my videos, or of course just increasing all allies crit and crit damage. Now, if you are someone that is spending the crit damage isn't that useful, the 10% crit chance, however, can be a positive or a negative, because as you guys know, when you're using Balanced Strike on a hero, you want at least one part of your attack to not crit, because essentially what happens, if you guys did not know, we'll actually show you guys real quick. With Balanced Strike, so it says if the base attack or active skill crits, restores HP, otherwise deals 30% extra damage. The way this works is if a single portion of your attack, if your multi-layer hit from like Aspen, Doom Terminator Vulcan, Betty, if any of that part of the attack doesn't crit, this 30% is actually added on to even your crit damage portions of your attacks, which is weird. It's not something that's pretty explanatory, but that is how it works. So I want you guys to be aware of it. So the extra crit chance can be a negative if you're trying to hit that sweet spot of like 60 to 70% crit chance. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, you can go for more crowd control. That's never a hurt, especially when you have Betty and other heroes like that on your account. Additionally, reduces the target's attack is a pretty nice one, or armor. Basically, if you're trying to get more damage in, the armor one's good. If you're trying to help survive on your team, the attack one's really awesome. Then she has a couple more damage ones as well. Now, typically you're not going to be taking damaging ones like this or this, but there is one of the damaging nodes here that also does something nice. Additionally deals damage to the one enemy with the highest attack and reduces their all damage dealt by 10% for 2 rounds. So again, if you're going against a boss wave or just a really annoying high attack wave, an additional 10% less damage on that high attack target isn't horrible. So at least it's a smart attack reduction, so it's kind of cool. If we keep moving down the tree, again, you can deal additional damage against Mirage Pollen targets. Not really great. This one I like. Additionally increases all allies damage reduction by 20%, so you can get closer and closer to the damage reduction cap in combat. Or additionally increases self speed. That one's kind of useless. She kind of has like one node in every single tree that is pure support, and at least because it is pure support, it makes it a little bit more useful. Moving on down to the end, we have the max ability, which again is going to take a long time to get to, considering she's not going to be your first Destiny Transition 6 hero. But if you do max it out, basically reads as this: changes the transition skill to after releasing basic attack, which again, you still need to do that. If self owns 3 or more layers, inflicts Blossom Erosion on one enemy without Blossom Erosion and deals 600% attack damage to the target. Afterward, deals 600% damage to the target with Blossom Erosion. Again, that's purely damage. That's kind of weaker than the original version, so even taking it to this isn't that great, but it doesn't consume the layers, which means if self owns 18, which is one of the highest numbers you'll see, or above layers, it consumes the layers of them and deals extra damage equal to 90% of the max HP. The big thing I hate about this is you lose that little like quality of life of reducing the enemy's damage reduction, which kind of sucks. The one bonus is you can use the 6 layers when you use an active skill, and this basically triggers off of actives. It's just whenever you have 18 layers, it goes off. So it's like there's a positive to it, there's a negative. I personally wouldn't go for this because it's just pure damage. There's no support built in really at all, whereas the base transition skill has some more uses in my opinion. Unless you're going for like some Demon Belt energy feed every single round, then it becomes kind of a negative. So let me know what you guys think about this hero. I think even taking her up to like this node here where you get additional resources, like getting up to here is not that hard to do nowadays. Well, at least for spenders. Eventually it'll be there for support heroes as well, but let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. It is a hero to potentially use as a Destiny transition in your main 6 hero lineup, and especially if you're building her with Elena, that combo could be sick. One thing I have been considering is swapping out 1 or 2 of these heroes to build Freya and Elena and just getting insane amounts of dodge for survivability on our team. Let me know if you guys have tried it out yourself. I'll see you guys next time.